Story 1, The Whisper from the Kitchen. It's that time of night when the silence in your own house starts to feel heavy. You know what I mean? When every little settling creak sounds like footsteps and you start doubting if you actually locked the front door. But this wasn't a creak. It was 3:17 a.m. and I heard my own name whispered from downstairs. I was wide awake already. My girlfriend, Megan, could sleep through a hurricane, but ever since I started taking swing shifts at the warehouse, my sleep schedule has been totally wrecked. I was just lying there in the dark, staring at the faint outline of the ceiling fan, trying to bore myself back to sleep. Then it happened. Mark. Just like that, faint, almost like breath catching in someone's throat. My entire body went rigid. My first thought, honestly, was that I was dreaming. You know that weird state between being awake and asleep where your brain plays tricks on you. I held my breath, listening so hard my ears started ringing. The house was dead quiet, just the hum of the refrigerator downstairs and Megan's soft breathing right next to me. I was just about to convince myself it was the wind outside when it came again. Mallard, come here. It was louder this time, definitely downstairs, and my stomach just dropped out of my body because I realized two things instantly. First, it wasn't Megan. She was right here, dead to the world. Second, the voice sounded weirdly dry, like someone who hadn't used their vocal cords in years. I slowly sat up, my heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to break out. I threw the covers off, agonizing over the rustling sound of the sheets. I grabbed the heavy flashlight I keep on my nightstand. It wasn't a weapon, but it was heavy enough to do some damage if I had to swing it. I crept out into the hallway. The floorboards in this old rental house scream if you step wrong, so I had to move like a ghost, putting my weight near the walls. Every step felt like a gamble. The staircase seemed twice as long as usual. It was pitch black down there. The only light was the faint green glow from the microwave clock, casting eerie shadows across the linoleum. I stopped halfway down the stairs, straining my ears. Silence. Had they left? Was someone hiding just out of sight in the living room? I made it to the bottom step and peeked around the corner into the kitchen. It was empty. The back door was still dead-bolted. The windows were closed tight. I let out a shaky breath. Okay, maybe it was an animal outside near a window. Maybe I really was losing it from lack of sleep. I walked into the kitchen, lowering the flashlight. I felt foolish, but mostly just relieved. I turned to go back upstairs, and that's when the refrigerator compressor clunked off, plunging the room into an even deeper, heavier silence. In that sudden quiet, a new sound started. It wasn't a whisper this time. It was humming. A slow, monotone humming coming from inside the walk-in pantry. My blood ran cold. The hairs on my arms stood straight up. The pantry door was slightly ajar. I knew for a fact Megan closed it tight every night because our cat likes to get in there and tear open bag of chips. I gripped the flashlight so hard my knuckles turned white. I don't know why I didn't just run out the front door right then. I guess curiosity gets the better of fear sometimes. I reached out with a shaking hand and pushed the pantry door open slowly. I shone the light inside. Shelves of canned beans, cereal boxes, pasta, nothing out of place. Except on the floor, wedged between the recycling bin and the wall. It was Megan's phone. The screen was lit up, casting a pale blue light on the floor. It was on a call. I crouched down and picked it up. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I looked at the screen. It showed an active call that had been going for 2 minutes. The contact name on the screen was Home, my number. I put the phone slowly to my ear. The humming stopped. There was a pause, thick with static, and then that same dry, raspy voice whispered right into my ear through Megan's phone. She's not asleep, Mark. A floorboard creaked directly above my head, on the second floor landing outside our bedroom. I didn't even go back upstairs. I ran out the front door in my boxers and t-shirt and called the cops from the neighbor's lawn. When the police arrived, Megan was sitting on the couch in the dark, staring at a blank TV. She said she didn't remember making a call. She said she didn't remember getting out of bed. She acted like I was crazy for overreacting. The cops found no one else in the house. We broke up a month later. I couldn't look at her the same way. I couldn't sleep in that house another night. I moved across town into a noisy apartment complex where there's always traffic outside. I still don't know what happened that night. I tell myself it was a prank caller who spoofed my number, and Megan just sleepwalked downstairs. I try to believe that. But sometimes, when it gets really late and the city noises die down, if I leave my phone in the other room, I swear I can hear it faintly vibrating on the table, like someone is calling me over and over again. I never answer it after midnight anymore. Story 2, a shadow outside my bedroom. I always thought living on the second floor meant I was safe. You know how it is. You assume burglars or creeps will always go for the easy ground level windows. I learned last Tuesday that safety is just an illusion we tell ourselves so we can sleep at night. I live in an older suburban house with 2 roommates, Tyler and Josh. They were both gone for a concert, so I had the whole place to myself. It was around 2:45 a.m. when I woke up suddenly. I wasn't sure what woke me. It was dead quiet outside, just the usual hum of the distant highway. My bedroom faces the backyard. I usually keep the blinds shut tight, but that night, the pull string had gotten jammed, leaving a 2-inch gap at the bottom of the window. I rolled over, trying to get comfortable again, and my eyes involuntarily went to that gap. There was something standing in the middle of the yard. At first, my sleepy brain tried to rationalize it. A deer. A neighbor's garbage can be blown over by wind. I sat up slowly, my heart starting a nervous thudding against my ribs. I leaned closer to the glass, peering down into the gloom. The faint orange glow from the alley streetlight backlit the shape. It wasn't a deer, it was a person. A man extremely tall and thin, just standing there in the wet grass. He was facing the house, facing my window. A cold spike of adrenaline hit my stomach. I froze. The room behind me was dark, so I knew he couldn't see me, but it felt like he was looking right into my eyes. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand, my thumb hovering over the emergency dialer. I watched him for what felt like 10 minutes. He didn't twitch. He didn't shift his weight. He was unnervingly still, like a statue placed there to mess with me. Just as I was about to convince myself it was some weird prank, he moved. It wasn't a normal walk. He didn't take steps. It was like reality glitched. 1 second he was in the middle of the yard, and the next second he was directly underneath my window. I scrambled backward on my bed, gasping. I couldn't see him anymore because of the angle, but I knew he was right against the siding of the house. Then I heard it, a sound that made my blood run cold. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It was the sound of fingernails lightly dragging against the vinyl siding, moving upward. He was climbing. I jumped out of bed, frantic now. I needed to get out of the room. I ran for my bedroom door, but stopped cold with my hand on the knob. The scratching stopped just below my sill. Silence stretched for a horrifying second. Then a soft tapping on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. I backed away, staring at the window in horror. Through that 2-inch gap in the blinds, a pale, overly long finger slid through. It hooked around the bottom slat of the blinds and began to very slowly lift it upward. I didn't wait to see the face attached to that hand. I tore out of the room, slammed the door behind me, and practically fell down the stairs in the dark. I ran out the front door and didn't stop running until I reached the all-night gas station 3 blocks away. The clerk must have thought I was on drugs, shivering there in my boxers and t-shirt, stammering at him to call the police. When the cops searched the house, they found nothing. No ladder outside, no footprints in the wet grass, which was impossible. They looked at me like I was having a mental break. I moved back in with my parents the next day. I couldn't spend another night there. But here's the thing that keeps me awake now. When I was packing up my room in the daylight, I looked at the blinds. The dust on the bottom slat was disturbed, just like I remembered. And on the inside of the window glass, there was a single greasy fingerprint. Not on the outside, on the inside. I don't sleep with windows in my room anymore. Story 3. The TV turned on at 3:17 a.m. You know that feeling when you're snapped awake in the dead of night, heart hammering against your ribs, trying to figure out what noise just pulled you out of sleep? It wasn't a dream noise this time. It was deafening static, blasting at maximum volume from my living room at exactly 3:17 in the morning. I live alone in a small duplex just off the highway. It's usually quiet, aside from the occasional semi-truck rumbling past. I'd pulled a double shift at the warehouse and crashed around midnight, completely exhausted. I know for a fact my TV was off. It's an older flat screen my brother gave me, nothing smart about it, and I'm obsessive about checking appliances before bed. The noise was horrific, just raw, aggressive white noise that felt like it was vibrating my teeth. I stumbled out of bed, adrenaline dumping into my system, my eyes adjusting to the dark. The living room was bathed in that eerie, flickering blue-gray glow of untuned television. I grabbed the remote off the coffee table and mashed the power button. Nothing. The static just kept screaming. I actually had to cover my ears as I fumbled behind the console to yank the power cord out of the wall. Silence slammed back into the room. My breathing was the only sound left. I checked my phone. 3:17 a.m. on the dot. I figured it was a weird power surge or a dying capacitor. I left it unplugged and went back to bed, but I stared at the ceiling until my alarm went off for work. The next day, I was a zombie. When I got home, I almost threw the TV out, but I couldn't afford a new one. I decided to leave it unplugged again. I wasn't taking chances. I woke up that night before the sound started. It was that feeling of being watched that woke me up. The air in the apartment felt heavy, colder than it should have been for July. Then the living room lit up blue again. No static this time, just silence. I froze in my bed. My bedroom door was cracked open, and I could see the flickering light spilling into the hallway. I knew I had unplugged it. I distinctly remembered dropping the cord on the carpet. I crept out of bed. Every instinct told me to hide under the covers, but I had to know. I edged down the hallway. The plug was lying on the floor, inches from the outlet. My stomach dropped. I looked up at the screen. It wasn't snow or static. It was a perfectly black screen, but it was illuminated from behind. And then a sound started coming from the speakers. It was heavy breathing, not mine. It sounded wet, guttural, like someone with a bad chest cold was sitting right there in the room with me, their mouth right against a microphone. I reached for the TV to physically pick it up and throw it out the front door, but the screen flickered. An image cut through the blackness. It was grainy, black and white, like old security camera footage. It took my sleepy brain a second to register what I was seeing. It was a camera view looking down a hallway. My hallway, the one I was standing in right now. In the footage on the screen, my bedroom door was closed. I looked down the real hallway to my left. My door was currently open. The footage wasn't live. It was a recording from earlier that night. The camera on the TV screen panned slowly, agonizingly to the left, towards the living room where I was currently standing, paralyzed. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't look away. The camera focused on my couch. There was someone sitting there, just a dark, indistinct shape in a hoodie, sitting perfectly still in the dark of my apartment while I had been sleeping just yards away. Then on the screen, the shape turned its head slowly toward the camera. I didn't wait to see a face. I bolted. I ran out the front door barefoot, leaving it wide open, leaving the TV on. I peeled out of the driveway and spent the rest of the night shaking in my car in a 24-hour Walmart parking lot under the bright lights. I broke my lease the next day. I let the landlord keep the deposit. I just wanted out. I never went back inside. My brother picked up my stuff later. He said the TV was gone when he got there. I don't watch TV anymore. I don't even own a computer monitor. But the worst part is waking up in the middle of the night. If I check my phone and it's 3:16 a.m., I just lie there, staring at the dark ceiling, praying the minute passes in silence.